Welcome to our MJ podcast, Deep into the Woods. The series, Just a Word or Two, Part 2. Donald Trump's network under 17 criminal probes. My name is Mark, and I will be your host for tonight's show. We are coming to you from our home office in Plattsburgh, New York, located in the Adirondack Mountains. We here at MJA hope you all are having a good holiday season. I am not a political person, but I do believe in law enforcement that do their jobs and national security. I do not belong to any political party. I work for justice. Let's face the facts. It's been reported one of the main reasons Trump doesn't want to leave office is because him and some of his family members are facing state prison time if convicted. Trump can pardon his family and friends from federal charges, but not state charges. Donald Trump is being investigated by a grand jury for crimes like bank fraud and insurance fraud. Also, a New York DA is targeting the Trump organization for protracted criminal conduct. Donald Trump is specifically facing criminal charges for tax fraud and insurance fraud with some other family members involved. This means Trump isn't just being targeted for some one-off financial crime that he might be able to walk away from. Trump's network of businesses and businesses practices and bankruptcies are the stems of the criminal probes that are being looked at by the grand jury. Before you conspiracy buffs jump up, this is not fake news. Some of these criminal investigations started long before Trump declared he was running for president. So in 2024, Trump might not be able to run for president because more likely he will be a convicted felon. Trump knows this, and this is public knowledge. What I didn't like and question about Trump: Russian troops engaged on U.S. troops in Syria, and nothing done or said by Trump. Russia put bounties on our troops' heads, and still nothing from Trump. 3 people being poisoned with 1 death led right back to the Russian leader and his secret security forces. One of the victims was the Russian leader's political rival. Still, Trump didn't say a thing. Now, wouldn't you call that election fraud in Russia? So we know they are capable of such tactics. The North Korea dictator wants to blow the U.S. off the map. And their last launch, it was estimated they only need 3,000 more miles to hit the U.S. with their missiles from North Korea. Old Trump wanted to become his friend, and he didn't sanction them for their missile tests. So North Korea went on with their testings and launchings. All of this will change when Biden takes over. A statement by Trump that COVID-19 was a hoax and would disappear after November 4th after the election. How wrong he was. I guess the thousands that died was a hoax too, when a vaccine should have been started right away. Trump was warned that COVID-19 virus could infect the U.S. before it even happened. He wants to blame somebody else for that too. but the virus came from China, so Trump should be blaming them. When Obama was in office, I had health care coverage which I hadn't had since 1987. Trump wanted to take my health care coverage away after me paying the Medicare deductions for years that came out of my payroll checks. The American dream is also about retirement. The American people who have worked until retirement age was promised a Social Security check and medical coverage. Trump wanted to take away people's Social Security checks if they drew a company pension. When dealing with Trump, it's all about conspiracies or fake news that everybody is out to get him. Just fact check his statements, and you will see a very high percentage of them were misleading or just made up. I guess it will be Biden's fault if Trump becomes a convicted felon, which started long before Biden was in the picture. Just like Hunter Biden's legal issues, it has nothing to do with his father, and it has nothing to do with voter fraud or a cabinet appointee post, so it has nothing to do with the White House or the president. So there is no conflict of interest. It's already been proven that some of the supporters of Trump are nothing but criminal thugs that incite violence on other party supporters. People are being hurt because Trump claims the election was rigged. Just like in Wayne and Monroe counties in Michigan, Trump claimed they found 3 people who voted that were dead. These people's Social Security and pension checks were stopped. These people were not dead. They had to prove who they were to collect their December check. That's really making America great again. I know for a fact in Indiana, there are 3 other Mark Allen Harpers, and 2 of them were born in the same year I was. So, how many Mark Allen Harpers are there in the whole United States? So if you have a duplicate ballot by name only, doesn't mean they voted twice. It could be someone else with the same name. Investigate, make sure it's legit, or have them come in to where they voted. If the election was so rigged, then why didn't the Democrats pick a better choice than Joe Biden? Let's take a pause for the cause, and we will be back in a moment.
You are not real. The reality of an observable entity designated by the term everyday life stands a good chance of remaining hypothetical for many people. You are not real. Indeed, the most striking feature of the present group for research on everyday life is obviously not the fact that it has not yet discovered anything. You are not. But the fact that the very existence of everyday life has been disputed from its very inception. And increasingly so with each new session of this conference. You are not real. Most of the talks we have heard so far have been by people who are not at all convinced that everyday life exists. You are not real. Since they haven't encountered it anywhere. You are not real. A group for research on everyday life with this attitude is comparable in every way to an expedition in search of the Yeti. You are not real. You are not real. Which might similarly come to the conclusion that its core aim was merely a
Welcome back to our MJ podcast. The series, Just a Word or Two, Part 2, Donald Trump's Network Under 17 Criminal Probes. What this amounts to is Joe Biden is his own man, and I am mixed on some of his diversity picks of his staff. Some all-time first, a black woman as vice president, and that is just amazing. Harris earned it from her experience in California. She honestly rose through the ranks from her hard work. To me, I would say Harris brought in a lot of votes for her experience at all levels in California. She will be the leading voice that our justice system needs a complete overhaul, clear down to how we train police officers. I believe you will find police will go back to using non-lethal weapons whenever possible. All police departments have them. Well, start using them. The fatal police shootings will go down. Lawsuits will go down for towns, cities, or states. On cold cases before DNA. Any DNA request should be honored by any inmate who puts in a claim to have DNA ran. A lot of inmates are denied that right where others get approved and DNA cleared them after spending years in prison. Since DNA has came into the picture, it's been proven over and over again that we had innocent people in our prisons for years. Biden's experience as a vice president for 8 years is an overall A+, and his politics that comes with that experience. Biden might be only a one-term president because of his age, so I wouldn't be surprised if Harris ran for the second term if Biden decides not to run for re-election. I would also say there wouldn't be a Republican in their ranks that could win against Vice President Harris. In reality, Vice President Harris could become the first female president and a female of color. Then once again, with Harris being president, you would have the same trickle-down effect of the same Obama and Biden politics, which for 8 years worked fine. If not, Obama wouldn't have been re-elected. Another all-time first. A man of color voted in to be president and then got voted in for a second term. Many people thought Obama would be a one-term president. I think a lot of people came to believe that they did have it better when Obama was in office for 8 years. So, Joe Biden was the solution to the problem because he was the vice president for Obama. As for foreign affairs, Biden was on the team that took out Osama bin Laden, who was the one that engineered the 9/11 attacks. Our enemies won't take Biden lightly. I studied world history, which included criminal world history. At one time, I was a person who conducted analysis on certain subjects for law enforcement agencies, all the way down to blueprints how to get drugs under control in their towns and cities. This is because of my experience of working for the U.S. government as a civilian employee, paid CI, undercover on the streets for 11 years. During those 11 years, I worked human trafficking, kidnappings, homicides, drugs, firearms and C4 cases. During all of my undercover buys, I was wired for sound. I got paid by how important the target was to their criminal activities. I am also with 2 police undercover officers that introduce that if you have 3 detectives sitting in lawn chairs on corners where they sell their drugs, after a while, their drug business declines. I know of one operation where 15 detectives was sitting on 5 corners of the drug trade, and their drug business was cut down to about 7%. That thinking carried on to MJA, where we crippled 3 crack dealers from New York City's drug business who set up shop in Vermont. At one time, they were major suspects concerning a missing person case. They would deliver their drugs to about 30 small town parks in Vermont, and they actually lived in the Montgomery, Vermont area. We figured out the route, and we would be there and pull right up to them, showing them our handheld radios and our cell phones, telling them no drug dealing today. We carried on this operation for about 9 months. We crippled their business to where they all 3 split up, leaving one of them in Burlington, Vermont. My conducted analysis on the whole election situation gives a clear reason to have hope for the future for my children and my grandchildren. From this experience, I see a blueprint on the wall, and I fully understand Biden's politics and what will be carried over from the Obama White House, which some of these policies will help our country and the middle working class people, which is needed. Don't get me wrong, Biden and Harris coming in with 2 strikes against them, that being the COVID-19 virus and our troops still in the Middle East engaged in combat. The Middle East is never going to be stable. It's been going on for thousands of years. Get out now and just protect our allies. Then they have to take care of the Russian leader. Then they have to take care of the North Korea dictator. And then they have to take care of Iran. The United Nations will not shy away from these issues. They are in violation for the nuclear bomb programs. I believe that immigration is going to be done differently. If the person has no criminal record, then they should be given a green card and be done with it. And then give them so many years to take the test to be a U.S. citizen like everyone else has to do. I met a guy from India while working at a Chrysler transmission factory, and for 3 years I helped him study for his citizenship test. It didn't hurt that I majored in world history. He passed the test on the first try, which is amazing because the majority had to take the test twice before they passed. It was an amazing experience, and then that's when I learned about immigration law. Most of the people who cross the Mexican border illegally has jobs already lined up in the United States. So if they don't have a record and they want to stay in our country, make it happen. They will be paying taxes and Social Security, and some will open up businesses and provide jobs. In my teen years, I met 3 families from Mexico that had businesses such as restaurants and pool halls, and sometimes live music entertainment. Biden will also take care of the illegal families that were separated from their children. You can't blame innocent children for what their parents had done. The last time I checked, there were 634 families that are still separated. To me, this is one of our lowest points in our country's history to do such a thing. Do people forget what the Statue of Liberty stands for on Ellis Island? Anyway, a lot of this is my opinion and what reality could be for the next 12 years in the United States. People need to take notice of that, and for the next 12 years, the United States can become a stable country. I have a quote for you all. A hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. Christopher Reeve. Always remember, folks, that if you ever get bored with nothing to do, well, take a walk deep into the woods. You might be surprised at what you might find. That's the end of our MJ podcast, Deep into the Woods. This series, just a word or two, part 2, Donald Trump's network under 17 criminal probes. I want to thank our viewers and listeners for tuning in, for you all have been so kind. My name is Mark, the host for tonight's show, and I say to all of you, good night from Plattsburgh, New York.